The story is set in 1991 and begins with a boy and a girl, Takaki and Shinohara. Both of them had moved to this city because of their parents' job transfers. Being in 4th grade and coming from different places, neither had any old friends here. However, they had many similarities, which led them to talk often and quickly become friends. But as always, the other kids in their class couldn't stand seeing them together while they stayed distant from the rest. So, they started teasing them, assuming they were in a relationship. Despite feeling uncomfortable about it, Takaki and Shinohara didn't let it affect their friendship. As time passed, both Takaki and Shinohara grew up, but their friendship remained just as strong. One day, while walking home from school, they passed through an area lined with massive cherry blossom trees. As the petals gently fell to the ground, Shinohara told Takaki, "Did you know that these petals fall at a speed of 5 centimeters per second? I wish I could always watch them fall by your side." A few days later, Shinohara called Takaki in tears. She told him that her father had been transferred to a distant place, and she would have to leave soon. She wouldn't be returning to this city and would continue her studies elsewhere. Even though they were still young, Takaki had always liked Shinohara a lot. The thought of her leaving made him deeply sad, and he soon fell into a quiet depression. He lost interest in everything, his studies, his daily life, and since he had never been close to many people at school, he felt lonelier than ever. But then, one day, a letter from Shinohara arrived for him. The moment he read it, his heart filled with joy. Without wasting time, he wrote a letter back, and soon, their communication continued through letters. Since this was the 90s, phones weren't a common means of communication, so exchanging letters was the only way they could stay connected. As more time passed, Takaki received news from his father. He too was getting transferred to a place even farther away. When Takaki calculated the distance between where Shinohara had moved and where he would be going, he realized that their gap was only going to grow wider. Knowing that he would be moving even farther away, Takaki made up his mind. Before leaving, he had to meet Shinohara one last time. He didn't have much money, but that didn't matter. He carefully planned everything, determined to see her before it was too late. Takaki carefully checked the railway routes and planned his entire journey. He even wrote everything down in a letter for Shinohara. According to his calculations, he would reach her by 7 p.m. Shinohara, just as excited, eagerly awaited their long-awaited meeting. However, things took an unexpected turn. Takaki boarded the train as planned, but soon, heavy snowfall began. As the train moved from station to station, the snow only intensified. Due to the extreme weather conditions, the train had to stop frequently so that the tracks could be cleared, causing significant delays. For Takaki, this was his first time traveling such a long distance alone. He wasn't just anxious. He was also nervous and slightly scared. As he sat there, he took out the letter he had written for Shinohara. It contained all his emotions, everything he wanted to say to her. But just as he was lost in his thoughts, a sudden gust of wind blew the letter out of his hands. Before he could react, it had already flown away, disappearing into the night. Takaki had poured his heart into that letter, but now it was gone. And worse, he wasn't sure if he could ever express those words to Shinohara in person. Meanwhile, time kept passing, and Takaki couldn't help but worry. Is she still waiting for me, or has she already left? The uncertainty made every passing moment feel unbearable. But as soon as he finally stepped off the train at his destination, his fears melted away. There, despite the freezing night, stood Shinohara, waiting for him. Overwhelmed, Takaki called out to her. In response, Shinohara simply grabbed onto his jacket and broke down into tears. She had been just as worried about him, fearing that something might have happened on the way. Relieved to finally be together, Shinohara revealed that she had brought plenty of food for him. The two of them sat together, sharing a meal and enjoying each other's company. However, their time was limited. The railway station was about to close, and soon the station master approached them, asking them to leave. Takaki and Shinohara walked together to a nearby cherry blossom tree. Though it wasn't the season for blooms, small ice crystals had formed on the branches, and droplets of dew sparkled as they fell. It almost felt as if they were standing under a sakura tree in full bloom, with soft petals drifting down around them. At that moment, the two grew even closer, sharing a kiss beneath the tree. Nearby, there was a small wooden hut, and they spent the night there together. Despite the happiness of being with Shinohara, Takaki felt an overwhelming sense of sadness. He knew that this moment wouldn't last. By the next day, he would be far away from her, unsure if or when they would ever meet again. Shinohara, too, was lost in the same emotions. Unable to hold back, she embraced Takaki tightly, as if trying to freeze time. The next morning, it was time for Takaki to leave. Shinohara accompanied him to the train station to say goodbye. However, the emotions were so heavy that neither of them spoke much. Then, as Takaki's train started moving, he watched Shinohara grow smaller in the distance. Unknown to Takaki, Shinohara had also written a letter for him, filled with her deepest feelings. But whether he ever got to read it remained a mystery. The story's second chapter begins now. The focus shifts to Takaki's new life. He has moved far away and joined a new school. While the story is not about a love triangle, a subtle one does emerge. In his new school, Takaki meets a girl named Kanai. The first time she saw him walk into class, something about him caught her attention. Over time, she developed a quiet crush on him. Kanai was not the type to openly express her feelings, so instead, she would steal glances at Takaki from a distance. Eventually, she mustered the courage to start talking to him. Takaki, too, found Kanai to be a kind and genuine person, so he would occasionally chat with her. Takaki had also taken up a new activity, archery. Every day, he attended his practice sessions, and without fail, Kanai would wait for him to finish, hoping to spend a little more time with him. Takaki and Kanai had fallen into a routine. They would often go home together, riding their scooters side by side. Takaki didn't mind Kanai's company. In fact, he appreciated having someone to share the road with.